I'm addicted to this series. Hey! It's Romania Black, and I feel like I am highly addicted to this series because it is one of the more unique things I have read and witnessed in quite some time. So bizarre, right? The introduction of, I've poured myself a giant glass. It's decaf coffee because it's late and I don't be up till like 3 a.m. But the introduction of Togata in volume 1 was kind of a shock in itself because you were like, oh, this is taking place in our universe. These are in-universe references. So this is in a post-apocalyptic future. And then the last episode, we find out that yes, the second ice age just came. Humanity has like 2 decades left before we all die of frigid temperatures. And Togata has been living as some kind of regenerative blessed who has maybe an artificial skeleton, maybe isn't a real being, for the last 300 years. And knows all this secret knowledge. So it's cool that we have Togata, who's not an unreliable narrator. She's not actively lied to us. She's just withheld some information until Judah asks her in the last episode, or the last volume, our 130-year-old blessed who's regenerative. And we know that Agni is a regenerative blessed, so he likely will just keep going on endlessly with the flames of Doma until he eventually just, eventually dies out of his own volition. So there's a lot of interesting things at work here. And I talked in the last reaction about things that I thought was going to happen. And I'm recording ahead of putting this on Patreon and YouTube only because I feel like with this series, it's going to be so easy to spoil. I will just have to answer the comments as we get to them and just see where it lands. And so I'm probably going to have lots of things when this series is over to recap and talk about. So I don't know. I haven't decided yet if I want to try to record the entire 8 volumes without any comments or without looking at anything. I might, because I like going into this completely blind, and then I might do like a recap or something, or a live stream or something later where we talk about it and just kind of recap everything. I don't know. I might save the final volume. I don't know, until we get closer to the end. I don't know what I'll do. I've not decided, but I could not wait. I wanted to record this volume because it's just that good. And I'm left with so many questions. And the last volume was a complete 180 of where I thought it was going to go from the first volume. So I feel like that's going to be the case with this series. I'm going to think something's going to happen and it's going to be polar opposite. So I feel like I need to go ahead and watch and read and see what happens. So I poured this, y'all. I sat down tonight. I was going to watch something else. And then I was like, I really want to read Fire Punch. So here we are. But yeah, so here we are, ready to go. And I don't know what to expect, but I'm very, very excited. I hope you all are too. So that's pretty much it. So we're not going to waste any more time, y'all. We are going to dive right into this business and see what happens. So let's find out, shall we? We are going to start Fire Punch Volume 3. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do this. That is how you end a volume. Oh my God! Oh my God! So, This is exactly why I'm reading ahead. This is why I'm reading ahead, because what is this series? What is this series? Holy cow. I'm floored. I feel like this was a very, very quick volume because it was mainly action. It was mainly action. The last 2 volumes have been very philosophical. They've gotten, which not to say that's not what's happened here, but what I love about this series is it's like Agni's character is growing and developing, and he's getting more layered and complex as we go, which we'll talk about. Judah, I love her character now. Her character is done I did not like her character at all in Volume 1. And in Volume 2, I was really struggling to feel how I thought about her character. And in this one, knowing the depth that we get on her character, I'm like, okay, she makes more sense now that she's been having this burden placed on her by her father since she was a kid to be the mouthpiece of this imaginary god. Or maybe not. Or maybe not. Togata is a damn unreliable narrator. I gave her the benefit of the doubt that she was reliable. But is she? Because we have someone show up that says they're the Ice Queen or the Ice Witch. Are they the Ice Witch? We don't know. Is this going to be Agni's actual mortal enemy? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, if there's one thing I'm glad in this volume, it is that Sun got out of that place. Sun got out of that place. Again, these volumes, they do not do what I expected at all. I did not think that, one, we were going to get Sun rescued in this volume. Didn't think it was going to happen. Didn't think there was a snowball's chance in an Ice Witch's hell that was going to happen. Didn't think it. Didn't think we'd ever meet the Ice Witch. I thought she was all imaginary. Who knows? Got that. Did not think that we would have Agni turn over a new leaf and decide to become a hero. Didn't think we'd get that. Didn't think that we'd have followers and worshipers of him. That I figured that at some point there would be this philosophical debate about whether they think Agni is a god or not because of his abilities. And so I figured that was going to happen, but I didn't think that like he would have followers in this short amount of time feel inclinated to come and rescue the people from Bandorg. I just didn't see it happening. But what the hell? And then we get insight into Agni and his character and how he's an unreliable narrator and Togata kind of is and Judah kind of is. Like, there's no reliable narrator in this story except maybe Sun. And oh my God. I'm floored. I am floored. Oh my God, I'm floored. What are we doing about this, right? What are we doing about this? So yeah, yeah. I wanted to bring Whiteboard Coon out because I feel like we need to touch base on some things. Specifically, we need to talk about Agni, our boy Agni, and kind of the character development that has gone on with him in this episode, or in this volume rather. We need to talk about Togata and where she is in all of this. She didn't have nearly as much of a role to play. I feel like it's fascinating in the covers so far. Togata had her own volume, Agni had his own volume, and then now Judah has had her own volume, which we'll put Judah over here. We'll put Judah here. They're kind of our three major players. But I want to put down here some kind of like, I'm going to put thematic stuff here because there were some of that. But then I'm going to put questions, right? We don't have a lot on Togata this. So questions for volume 4. Yeah, the one thing about this series is it changes so constantly that I don't know what we're getting. So I just feel like when you open up the next volume, you don't know what you're going to get. This was like an all-out brawl and like an action volume. But then at the end, you're just like, there's this mystery, right? So I'm going to put volume 4. All right. Volume 4 questions that need to be answered, right? Okay. And my dog is like, throw this ball whilst you talk about this. So yeah, this volume, again, we were talking in Chainsaw Man in the Discord, and some people were bringing up that Fujimoto, as a mangaka, has lamented that due to the week-to-week structure of Chainsaw Man, that they lament that sometimes they don't have time to draw things to the fullest. And I have seen some comments on Twitter that talk about Fujimoto and say that like, oh, his artwork is very crude and not very good, and Mappa has to kind of like make up for it. As someone that draws for fun and once thought they'd minor in art until they realized they didn't really like it enough to major in it, I will say that I love drawing people. I hate drawing backgrounds. I hate drawing buildings. I hate drawing trees. And if Fujimoto wanted to take the easy way out, they could use the fact that this was an apocalyptic ice snowscape to avoid having to do that. But there is some intricate buildings and destruction to said buildings drawn in this volume that are absolutely gorgeous. I don't know, so far we're at like chapter 28, so I don't know if this was like a month-to-month release or a week-to-week like Chainsaw Man was, but there's clearly been some painstaking amount of time taken to make this look good. And I applaud Fujimoto for just creating not only very distinct characters, but making them very consistent. Because even though this is in black and white and it's like a snowscape, I can tell these characters apart. The Behendork army members are distinct enough, even if they don't have names. Some of them are just hard to tell apart. But man, crazy stuff, y'all. So I like the idea. I guess we'll put Nanetto over here. We'll put Nanetto over here, right? Nanetto has been filming segments on her own, right? And she also starts to get in like a film mindset, right? Because it almost seems like she even has like a little flashback monologue later on in the volume where she's kind of like detailing her past and her philosophy. So Nanetto is taking a page from Togata's book as far as being a filmmaker, right? Which is rather interesting. But she's been filming some things. She says, these are my treasures. They're cigarettes made in my hometown. When I grow up, I'm going to smoke them. So that's fascinating that she's kept these little cigarettes made in her hometown as a memento, and she's not a delinquent that's going to just smoke them. She wants to treasure them till she's an adult. That's fascinating, right? And she's like, I say it's mine, this room, and I've claimed it for myself. And then there's Fireman. He's outside naked and on fire. And so he needs to he says he's bored and he asks her to teach him some English. And unlike Togata, who only taught him like dirty phrases like genitals, she says that she teaches him what cold, snow, and then she says fire, punch, right? Womp womp, like getting the roll credits moment. And she's like, oh no, she's like, I lied. It was a joke. Like, he doesn't know what a joke is anymore, right? Want to make note with Agni, and I'll put it kind of in pink because that red's a little hard to see. But Agni has made known that he might have lost his mind along the way these last 8 years while he's been in mind-numbingly pain, you know. And he's also been having hallucinations. Is the ice witch even real? Is she even real? Is he just hallucinating that Judah lived? We don't know at this point, right? And I will say that he, along with Togata, are unreliable narrators. They're unreliable narrators because the Agni, we know he's been having visions and having some hallucinations. He might not be seeing things correctly. We don't know as the audience what's real and what's not real. And Fujimoto for sure isn't telling us. And with Togata just made a big point of telling Judah in the last volume that there was no ice witch, that it was all an illusion. Well, then who the hell's this ice witch? So we'll get to those questions. But yeah, but Agni admitting that he's told lies before. And then I like that we cut back to reality in the present time, but you know we're going to go back to it later on in the story at some point, and we do in this volume, to see what he actually told her, right? So Agni admits that he's also a liar. A liar and a good actor. That is crazy. Him telling Nanetto that he was a good actor, and then he has to act for Togata, who doesn't know his past, seemingly. So it adds just another layer to it, right? I do like the very Iron Man vibes that Agni is putting on. It's a very Iron Man vibe. He's got the suit. The hood underneath the suit reminds me a little bit of, in Chainsaw Man, there is a fiend that wears a hood, and that's all I'll say for spoiler's sake. But the design, there's aspects of the character design that I've seen in his one-shots, and I see them evolving into Chainsaw Man character designs, which is kind of cool. I like that. But yeah, he talks about how it's hard to move around the clothes. Togata had this whole thing planned out. The one bout of humor is when, as she's getting carried away, she's like, I had a script. I had the ending mapped out. Like she had the whole story planned out, and it's not going according to plan. So Togata is not in control. I find what's fascinating about this volume is whenever Togata stops being in control anymore, she loses interest in filming, but then in the end, she wants it filmed anyway. She changes her mind, and she surprisingly takes losing control a lot better than I thought she would. I thought she'd be super mad and actively trying to hurt Fireman, But in the end, she kind of just goes with the flow, which is not how I thought her character would handle that situation at all. I guess she realized, she's like, well, I'm going to live anyway, so we'll just see how this pans out. And the whole introduction of the followers, we'll talk about that. But Togata, she basically convinces him. She had an entire story planned out that is no longer going to be a thing. So it's funny, she had all this stuff planned out, and then she was like, dang it, this isn't going to work anymore. And so the idea of him putting up his hood, and so Agni goes on like a giant character arc in this whole volume. This volume, he just goes on a very major character arc where he starts out thinking that once he kills Doma, his will to live is gone and he will die. And at first, he's happy about this. It's very creepy seeing Agni smile because it looks so unsettling. It just looks so wrong. And you feel bad, right? But he's like, I'll have no reason to live. I love that shot of the three of them, the three blesseds who get picked by Judah, and Judah's just sitting there with a cigarette, like, let's just get this over with. Like, Judah's dispassion as part of her character is absolutely amazing. And so they have this idea, right? The thematic element here, the idea that we need to kill Fireman in public as an example. She sees the writing on the wall that he was firewood, or potential firewood, that fought back and is capable of fighting back. And she's like, we need to set an example so that the other public firewood folks don't get the idea that they can revolt. We need to make him an example that even if you're super strong, doesn't matter, we're still going to get you in the end, right? And so this whole montage when they're going through the jail cells and Agni's saying, finally the pain's going to end. The pain for my body, my hatred, and my sadness. This stupid farce, which I'm assuming he's talking about Togata and all of this, right? And Judah makes note that there's importance to him dying in front of the masses. So Agni says that the pain that he has from his hatred, his own body, and his sadness, and the life he's living will end. And I do feel bad for Agni because he's kind of screwed either way. He can't live a normal life. He can't touch anyone. He can't embrace anyone. Maybe the ice witch. Maybe he can get with the ice witch. Maybe she's the only exception because she's a perpetual ice. Maybe they'll come together and it'll be beautiful. Maybe that will be the end of the story. I don't know. But maybe she is like him, but the opposite. Okay, maybe if the ice witch is real, maybe she is the ice version of Agni, and everything she touches turns to ice, and everything he touches turns to fire. And maybe they are, I'd say Game of Thrones spoilers. Maybe they are the Daenerys and Jon of this world, right? Maybe that is the case. I don't know. If she's the actual ice witch, though, she's hundreds of years old. So what do we do with that? But interesting. That would be, maybe Agni does have a future with the ice witch. Who knows? We'll save that for next volume. But I feel bad for him because as of right now, he can't ever live a normal life. He's going to constantly be in a state of pain forever. So until he decides to die, and every ounce of his internal instinct is telling him not to die. So it's interesting, right? I want to make note of the three guys here. Dida, Katarai, and was it Kauru or Kalu? The flying one says, do you think we'll be free if we kill the burning man? So Kalo is hopeful for freedom, which makes sense, he can fly, right? Then you have the one guy, Dida. He says, I don't know, I just want to kill and rape someone. So Dida doesn't care. He just wants destruction. So he's actually crazy in that sense. And then the T guy, he says no. He says no, they're going to kill us. They're going to kill us two. So you have one that's optimistic for freedom, one that's indifferent, and one that's pessimistic. They're like, no. And what ends up happening is not really any of them, right? But Togata is all about luring him. And God, I love the shot when we're in the cells and we slowly see Agni walk past. And at first he sees his parents. He's like, Mom and Dad, I'll see them. And he's so happy. And the real Luna. And as there's this internal struggle that he's having between wanting to die and see his family, and then everyone else around him being like, no, live, don't die, keep living. Like, and he shrugs all of them off. But the only one he can't shrug off is the boy saying help. Is the boy saying for him to help him. And then I like Togata's like, why are you stopping? What's going on? And he sees a version of himself fighting to save the kid. So there's this conflict, right? And the conflict is, do I want to die to end suffering? Or do I want to use my suffering to save others? And he actually decides on the latter. And I'm kind of amazed, right? I like this entire time that Agni is having these character moments, right? That Agni's character up until this volume has been pretty two-dimensional. He's not had a lot of depth. And this volume actually gives him some, like the whole thing about lying and the whole thing about what he wants to do and his purpose. Like it starts to expand upon his character. And I love that the entire time it's happening, Togata is like, wait, no, you can't just create new character elements for yourself. Stop. But then he says about things that he lied about. He says, I didn't want to see my little sister worry, so I told her that it didn't hurt to have my arm cut off, but it did. He said that I've only seen the rivers frozen, but I told her I swam in one because I wanted to see her smile. I was a good actor. So yeah, that whole thing in the beginning with him swimming in the lakes, it was a lie. It was a lie. It never happened. And then we see him like acting, being like, I'll do whatever it takes to kill Doma. And then he says, Doma said they're going to defeat the Ice Witch. And I thought that was so cool. So he's conflicted whether, like, does he really want to kill Doma or does he want to fight the Ice Witch? And then he's like, I thought that I hated it when I was burning at Doma's hand. But then I thought, no, this is right because the village eats flesh and it's crazy. So that whole time he's like, I actually was kind of okay with them killing us all because we weren't in the right. So it's all these character reveals, right? All these character reveals with Agni and what he really thinks about the situation. And then we have Judah saying, then just die. But then Agni's like, my sister told me to live. That was her final wish. But there was no way I could grant it. Luna being alive kept me going. And the only way I thought I could keep going was for Doma to die instead. In the end, all I could do was pretend to be an Avenger so that I could live. So given Agni his whole life, like this extra context of how he's been viewing his existence is so fascinating. I love it. I know that even if I kill Doma, Luna won't come back. So he's just going through, he's like, I know that it's not going to do anything, but he's like, I used that hatred to keep me going back to distract me from my pain. So eventually I forgot I was acting. And he's like, who am I really? He's like, I thought bad guys should die, but I don't want to see anybody die. I thought I could kill this deer, but I hate seeing death. He's like, I just tried to create this version of me that was just and made sense. But he's like, in reality, I don't know what to think. So it's, God, that whole sequence, it's so good. And so he grabs himself and he's like, what do you want? I want to save them. And I love that Togata's like, wait a minute, no, it's outside your character specs. He's like, I want to save them because I don't want this world to beat me. Oh my God. Yep. He doesn't want the world to beat him. Now, I feel like Agni's still a little wishy-washy at times, a little bit, but honestly, I feel like, and this is obligatory Attack on Titan spoilers, I feel like that this idea of not wanting the world to beat him connects him somewhat to Eren from that series. A little bit. He's trying to like, I need to see the series in full before I can make any final determinations. But I just was reminded of Eren in that moment where he didn't want the world to beat him. Okay, end of Attack on Titan spoilers. Just pointing it out. But yeah. And then he punches, and then the version of him, I like the flames are on the opposite side of the version of him that's human, and he punches through the cells. And I love that Togata's like, what are you doing? No! And it like sounds off the alarm, and he tells the slaves to escape. And then they're all like getting out of there. And I like that Togata's like, it'll dilute your rage towards Doma. And Agni's like, I'm done acting. He's like, this isn't a story you've conjured up. I'm deciding my own story. And Togata is no longer in control. So Agni takes over the story. And Togata's like, well, I like that Togata like threatens to kill him, and he just doesn't do anything. He's like, he asks Naneto to help him save Sun, and she's like, okay. And I like Togata's like, Sun, you can't mention unknown characters. The audience will get confused. It's great. And then, then the guards show up, and it's all of this idea. I love the fact that Agni says when he starts to feel pain again, he realizes being pierced by bullets isn't supposed to feel good. So I love that idea that Agni realizes that pain is bad, not a fuel. I love the character work that happens to him this volume. It's so good. But yeah, all these people there are like, what is happening? And then he just pulls the machete and stuff out, and I'm so glad Sun gets out of there. I'm like, and Naneto gave him her coat. It's so sweet. But yeah, all these people, all these like decimated people and emaciated people behind him. And there's this idea of, okay, is Agni, is he a god or a devil? Or is he just a human that was cursed? Same with the Ice Witch. Is the Ice Witch a god, a devil, or just a cursed human? We don't know. The Ice Witch reveal is like my favorite thing so far about the series. What a freaking out of nowhere reveal. I'm so floored. I love it. But yeah, and then Sun's like, it's just like I told you all. He's a god. And Agni's like, if I fail, this whole thing fails. He's like, I've got to keep standing. I've got to pay attention and not keep getting hurt for no reason. And that's when Judah and all of them show up. And of course, everybody's like standing outside the window, but she's like, don't let him touch the buildings. Once he starts a fire, it's going to be out of control, right? And then, and Agni at this point is like, what is happening? Why am I here? I'm here to kill Doma. These people don't matter. What am I doing with them? And then he faces up against Dida, and it's great. Like, Dida and the guy whose name starts with a T, like, they take him on, right? Using the power of iron and his power over his muscle. And the flying guy, like, he flies a coop. He's like, bye. But yeah, he goes through everything, lights on fire, and then the city catches fire, and the flames won't go out. And everything Judah worked against is like, we're done. She's like, now it can all be over. And she tosses the cigarettes onto the piece of fire and lights them. And so this one guy with the hood, with the beanie on, is like, everything you said about hearing the voice of God, was it a lie? And she's basically like, yep. So she was trained to fake the voice of God and hearing it. And Doma saw through it. I don't think Doma's dead. I really don't. I don't think Doma's dead. I think he's alive out there somewhere. That's going to be one of our questions, is where is Doma? Because, yeah, he had the flames too. So he's not going to burn alive. He's got the flames like Agni does. So where's Doma? We need to know this. And then then the one guy with the toboggan says, then Doma was right. Like, we need to go save Doma. And so we don't know what his blessing is. The guy with the beanie, we don't get his blessing. So I'm going to put beanie guy. And I'm pretty sure he lives. So beanie guy, what is his blessing? We don't know, right? We don't get that. But yeah, most of this volume, again, Fujimoto, the artwork is incredible and absolutely gorgeous. And is just Dida versus Agni versus in this fight versus the city. And he keeps being told to live with Luna's voice in his head, right? And so Judah's just in the fetal position. She's just given up. She's like, I'm done. I'm kind of over all of this. And the one guy with the beanie is trying to think of what to do. And so they try to tell the people, they're like, you were born outside of the city. You lived as humans even though you're not, and you live to serve us. You're nothing more than firewood. Like, it sounds so stupid, doesn't it? It sounds so stupid, this idea that there are humans and they're trying to say that these other humans are not. It's just like, it's the dumbest thing in the world. And you feel, as the volume goes on, you feel the idea that the people that are the firewood are starting to revolt and be like, nah, we really think we're human like you all. You guys just took advantage of us. And the guy in the beanie says he hears the king's voice. Again, girl, Nanetto and Son have escaped a bullet like nobody's business. They have managed. I feel bad because the one electrical guy looks like he died. Sad about him. But then she even notes, Nanetto says, when I was 13, I noticed people were split into groups. The users and the used. The warm and the freezing. The humans and the firewood. Like, basically, who's going to keep the world afloat when it's falling apart? And yeah, she's like, that's how the world worked, and nobody fought back until there was a man engulfed in flames. Yeah, I love that. I love the symbolism of giving these people this hope that they're not inhuman, that they are no different than the other side, right? And it took our boy Fireman to do it. And I love Togata the whole time. She's just like, I hope you're filming this. Like, she just has like stars in her eyes watching this fight between the two of them. Like, it's so cinematic, which granted, it's gorgeous. And he just keeps getting up. And he finally cracks into Dida's armor, right? I love Togata. And again, they're saying he's a devil or he's a god. Like, both sides have different views of what he is. And he keeps saying, why can't I die? Why am I still alive? Now, he says he feels like he's forgetting something. He's like, what am I forgetting? Something important. What is it? Why am I alive right now? So I am curious if we're going to get more character development with Agni. If he's going to go back to thinking, why is he alive? What's the point of living for him now? What else we're going to get with that? And then he stands up and gives the monologue to the people there, saying these people don't have a shred of remorse. They treat us like objects. They forget that we live and burn us like firewood, acting like it's a natural course. And they blame it on the ice switch, but then created a world where they call us fuel. He's like, they didn't make anything better. And so he's like, I hated it all. The snow, the hunger, the madness. And I've never been able to forgive that. So maybe that's what he was remembering. But I like that in the midst of all of this, Togata's like, she decides to play along. She was like, hey, your power retardant arm can actually go up in flames if you say a magic word. We'll make this cinematic. And then he says fire punch. And look, Togata hates it. She's like, that's really lame. But he punches through the armor. And then Dida lights on fire and burns from inside. And again, the people Behemdor call him a devil, and the people that were the firewood call him a god. And I love that scene where it's like half of them are praying and half of them are fighting him. I mean, as symbolic as you can get, right? How much more symbolic can you be? But damn, it's so good. And then Agni's like, why are you praying to me? No. And then the guy with the T name, he's the only one that gets it because Son's like, it's the power of a god. And he's like, he's no god, but he's a handful. Like, he's making Agni fly himself, but the people believe that he's flying as a deity. And then that image of him above the city where it's been burning, and you can see like it's burning so quickly and it's already lit on fire. Amazing. He's like, I'll burn you to ashes outside the atmosphere. The guy with the beanie tries to maintain order, but the people, the soldiers on the other side, have already been convinced themselves that Agni's a god. They're like, we can't fight him. He'll kill us. And the guy with the beanie's like, are you serious? Like, we know he's not a god. Like, just, it's amazing, right? Just the change that's happened. And then they tell him that the inmate with the mohawks ran away. And then he goes up into the atmosphere, tears apart himself from the inside. Ugh. And that caused him to fall back to earth and regenerate. Ugh. And then he comes up, throws his arm that he tore off into the guy's face. And they're like, he came down from heaven. And the light shines down as the other guy's burning alive. And he's got all the swords and everything in him. Fujimoto. But then the one guy lands and gets smashed in the head by this man who's the follower with the mask on. And, I mean, he's right. The guy was like, he's like the wicked. He's like, I had a reason. I saw into his heart with my blessing. He's put countless children through hell. That man wasn't worth keeping alive. Okay, so we have Beanie Man. I feel like Beanie Man is going to take charge of Behemdorg while Judah is away. So he's like Judah's replacement. We don't know much about him. We have Batman, the man with the bat, and he is a follower of Agni who can see into hearts, which is interesting. He can see into hearts. Cool. He can see the soul of people. Seems like a rather useless blessing, but he seems to be pretty good with the bat, and he's got like hockey shin guards on, so he's fine. And then, yeah. And then we have Judah's backstory. Now, the one guy, I almost thought he was Jack, but it's her dad. And he tells her she has to be the voice of God to unite humanity. And she's like, for how long? And he's like, till it's over. So he tells her that her job is to unite humanity. And she's an interesting character because while obviously I don't condone the use of the firewood people, it seems like what her aspirations were to try to save the people she knew she could save, and this was the only way she knew how to do it. It doesn't make it right, but I like that we're getting her backstory and seeing kind of, you know, she's been groomed since she was a child to be this certain position and to maintain order in this certain sect of society, and now it's all destroyed. So she herself doesn't have a reason to live. And that traces back to volume 2, when at the end, Togata told her, she was like, oh yeah, there's no ice witch. There's no king. You've been making this all up. You guys are going to die in 20 years. And so Judah, she kind of is like Agni. She lost her will to live. She was like, well, my whole purpose in life was to save my people in this city. I can't do that now. So what's the point of me living? It's a really cool contrast between the two of them, right? And so then this guy shows up with his mask and his hat. His design looks kind of like Blade Man in Chainsaw Man. So that's fun. I kept thinking what it reminded me of, but it's the hat. The hat reminds me of it. And then Agni tells him to take the people that are slaves and run away with them. And he's just so happy that Agni talked to him. He was like, oh my God, he talked to me. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And then Judah just has a death wish. She just wants to die at this point. Or does she think that she'll stay alive forever because she's, you know, a regenerative blessive? I think she just wants to die. And so the guy in the beanie is like, can you not fire your weapons? And none of the guards have it in them anymore. They're too afraid they're going to get punished. And the beanie guy's just like, well, I guess we'll let them get away. And then he reveals that he has a blessing to make fire, which is fascinating. So his blessing is that he can make fire, which I guess he didn't reveal this whole time because he was afraid he was going to get turned into firewood. But now he's like, screw it. I'm going to tell you that I can make fire. The king gave me this power, so let's go get the firewood back. Which, it's so ridiculous that the firewood are blesseds, just like this guy with the beanie. They're no different, but they keep calling them subhuman. I'm like, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. The fact that the oppressed and the oppressed are the exact same. But Judah just wants to die at this point. And she tries to convince Agni that she's Luna. And she says, please kill me, big brother. And that was the big goof. Agni's like, oh, no. You are not my sister, because she would never call me that. And I just love the artwork of Judah's face falling when she realizes that she goofed. And Agni's like, yeah, you're not her. Even if he wants to believe it, he knows it's not her. Just the expressions. Fujimoto and the expressions, they're wonderful. They're amazing. And then we go back to Nanetto and Sun. And Nanetto's like, I was worried about you. And Nanetto reveals that at one point she was selfish and said she really wanted to save herself, when the reality was she was worried about him. And in the end wanted to keep others safe. She's like, I was lying to myself, saying that I didn't want to help others. Kind of like the big plot character arc that Agni goes through. He was convinced that he was just living until he could die, but the reality was he kind of wanted to save people as well. Maybe like Judah. I don't know about Togata. Togata's crazy. But she's like, maybe I am a good person. And Sun's like, you totally are, Nanetto. I'm so glad Sun's okay. I'm glad he's fine. I'm glad we've got that plot point, like, okay for right now. Then we have Ute. Ute, I don't know if we find out his blessing, but we have Ute. He's the driver with Togata, and they are followers. And they basically talk about how they've heard the legends of Agni and the people that they've saved, which I feel like it's not been that long, but these guys could have seen Agni for years from before, right? I wondered if they saw him like when he was out wandering through the snow, like in pain. But it seems like they've only, they're talking about him saving people, so word travels fast, right? And then the leader is the passionate guy. And so I feel like Togata can work with this. I feel like Togata just got inspired because we have new blesseds that are not regenerative types. They're the variety pack. She's like, okay, cool. We got followers. We got new characters. They got new interesting powers. I can make this work from a movie. She's like, with these characters, I don't have to make anything up. And then she's like, what are we going to do about our hero being left behind? And then she says a pyramid. And she's like, oh, a pyramid. And films it. And she says, no matter how hard Agni struggles, it'll still end up being a tragic ending. So, what's curious is Togata still seems like our omniscient narrator. Togata still seems like she has some inkling of foresight to know what's happening in the future. And she predicts that it's still going to be a tragedy no matter what. Which might be. I mean, where Togata is coming from is like it's still going to be a tragic ending because as far as we know, the world's still going to freeze over to the point where no one's going to live. So, and then as Judah says, Agni will be all by himself. But honestly, I think at that point, if Agni did stay by himself in the very end, he would die then. I think he'd kill himself then because he wouldn't want to be the only one left on Earth. Or who knows? Maybe he'll end up like repopulating the world. Who knows? Maybe it'll just cycle back through and regenerate itself. I don't know how this story is going to go. And so Agni blames Judah for Luna's death because essentially in a roundabout way, she's the cause of it. And he tells Judah to go die on her own. Don't try to have him kill her. And she's like, well, why do you want me to leave? Is it because I look like Judah? Is it because I look like Luna? And then she laughs. And says it's the first time that she's laughed in a long time. And then she tells Agni, you're just like me. She's like, I can only die from your fire. And Doma's probably dead by now. Only your flames can kill me. She's like, you got your revenge. So now what? And he calls her a liar. But Agni finally collapses, realizing, oh yeah, I have decimated the whole city, so Doma could be dead. And she's like, well, you avenged your sister, aren't you happy? And he says, no. Did you want him to give Doma a gruesome death? No. Do you want him to beg for forgiveness? No. Do you want your little sister back? No. She's like, Doma's dead. If I die too, you'll lose any reason you have for living. And he says, no. And she's like, why do you... And he says, I don't want to see you die because I watched my sister die in front of me. And she's like, you don't want me to die because then you'll lose your only link to living anymore. And she goes to this whole thing. She's like, you don't want to... She's like, you want me to go die on my own because then you can tell yourself that I didn't die. Right? She's like, you're a good liar. That's how you can endure those flames. So I like the idea that she is suggesting that he lies to deal with his reality. Which, yeah, that very could well be. He said he's been a liar before, so, and we know he's not a reliable narrator, so, yeah, he could be just lying to deal with reality, and Judah's calling him out on it. And she's like, once the world's covered in ice fully, everything will be shrouded in death, and you'll be the only one left. And I love that we see, like, the human version of himself, like, just sitting there thinking about that. And then she, looking like his sister, reaches down and says, let's end it together. And she gives him the out that he wants. And saying, why would you tell me to live? That was so mean. And it's like he wants this moment for them to die, right? He wants to be able to, like, leave. But she's, like, gonna die. She's on fire. And he readies himself. And then when he opens his eyes, this being has taken an icicle and taken off Judah's head. Now she says, Agni, my child, which implies that the ice witch is much older, and says, I love you, so whatever you do, don't get in my way. If you do, I'll have to kill you. The ultimate yandere is the ice witch. The ultimate yandere. If you get my way, I'll kill you, but I love you, Agni. Do I ship it? I've known the ice witch for 3 seconds, and I'm already thinking that maybe her and Agni could come together and come to an understanding. I don't know. That age difference, though. But yeah, the character design of the ice witch, looking just like a damn ice climber with the shard sword of ice. Badass. Mm-hmm. That whole reveal is amazing. I love that. But yeah. And that's it. And the snow coming off of the ice witch almost looks like feathers, like angel feathers. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is pretty amazing. I am kind of all about this volume. It's great. So yeah, questions, obviously the ice witch. Where's Doma? The beanie guy with the fire, is he Judah's replacement? How's that gonna go? The Agni and the ice witch, what are we doing with that? Judah, what does the ice witch want with Judah? Assuming she can grow herself back. The Batman and Ute, what are they gonna do with Togata? What is Togata gonna do? And what is Nanetto and Sun gonna do? We've got so many things, but this volume, as per Fire Punch usual, did not go in any way, shape, or form than I thought. And I'm okay with that. So yeah! My voice like raised an octave. Yeah, so yeah. I loved this volume. It was probably my favorite so far. It's like that first volume eases you into how bad this world is. And then after that, we kind of ease up a little bit, right? Or we've become desensitized to it, so it's fine. Right? So, I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. But I'm excited to read the next volume and see what twists and turns we get from here. So, in any case, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with volume 4 of Fire Punch.